Hello, and welcome to part 2 of the engine rebuild for the Renault 16. This video is going to be more straightforward. I don't have as much to say for the intro. The first one was pretty self-explanatory. So we're pretty much just going to jump right in and enjoy the video.
Introductions done, I began with pulling off the oil pan. This is a pretty normal piece, just a bunch of bolts and square washers, though required a bit of archaeology to find the heads.
What lies within?
The oil pan is common to all engine types, with the exception of an aluminum finned type that were used in the Alpine. Next was the pistons, cylinders, and other attached components. The design of the engine is such that the big end is wider than the cylinder, and the cylinders themselves are separate from the block, so that whole group of parts comes out as one piece. The cylinder bases are sealed to the block with a paper gasket in type 697, 821, and 807 engines, and with a rubber O-ring in types 841 and 843. These two types have a small chamfer machined into the block for the O-ring. Another thing to take note of is the variety of combinations between cylinder bore and step bore Renault used, so pay attention to your specific engine type if you are ordering new cylinders or pistons. The step bore refers to the diameter of the hole in the block that holds the cylinder. After a bit more bolt archaeology, we took the timing cover off.
Whee!
We then transitioned to the front of the engine to take off the clutch and oil pump housing. There are two types of clutches, the earlier type with a pressure ring and a later type without. The two types of clutches are interchangeable and use the same disc, but need to be used with their respective release bearings. I chose to take the timing chain guides off next. There are two different styles depending on the engine type, either with one for the type 697 or two guides for all others. Mine has two. Before removing the guides, be sure to measure the clearance between the unworn sections of the guides and the chain, as you will need these to properly position your new guides. The workshop manual shows the use of a special spacer tool for the double chain guides. However, these are no longer available. For single guides, the spacing is 0.8 millimeters. At this point, I also removed the hydraulic chain tensioner. However, I think I forgot to record that bit. This is somewhat tricky. There is a plug in the back of the tensioner that is removed to access a lock, which is then engaged while holding the tensioner compressed, and this holds it together while the two mounting bolts are removed. While the engine was on its side, and before rotating it right side up, I pulled the oil pump out, which consists of an inner rotor and outer rotor. The oil pump is common to all engine types. However, I have heard of a high-performance pump that was available at some point in time. With the engine spun back upright, I pulled off the camshaft bearing and seal housing. There is a sleeve bearing inside it, which will need to be replaced. This too is common to all engine types. With the front cam bearing removed, I unbolted the rear cam bearing. which is housed inside a block, and once loose allows the camshaft to move freely aft when I get to removing the rest of the timing. And that starts with removing the crank sprocket. This is held on by a single bolt with a washer and spacer. The sprocket is also a press fit with a Woodruff key, and this requires the use of a puller. The workshop manual says to use another specialized tool, however there are very similar tools available. Or you can use a 3-jaw puller like I did, but the heads have to be ground down to fit between the sprocket and crankcase. After the crankshaft sprocket is off, the timing chain can be removed, and the camshaft can be slid rearward and lifted out. There are multiple types of camshaft. Each engine has its own with the exception of types 697 and 841, which shared their camshafts. Type 821 engines also had 2 different camshaft types, for single or double valve springs. With the last of the timing stuff removed, I started removing the flywheel. This has 7 bolts and a large single-piece locking washer. The workshop manual says the bolt pattern on the flywheel is offset, so you can only put the flywheel on one way. The flywheel is common to all engines with gearboxes, while engines coupled to automatic transmissions have a flex plate. The last component left in this engine now is the crankshaft itself, and of course the bearing caps holding it in. The forwardmost bearing cap doubles as part of the engine's main seal, and as such has 2 additional seal strips on the sides to seal it to the crankcase. This made it rather stubborn to remove, though with a lot of wiggling and a bit of careful prying, I got it loose. All engine types share the same crankshaft, as well as the block, which is why a lot of the previously removed components are also used in all types. And that's the end of this video. I'm going to skip all the measurements because it's incredibly repetitive and tedious. There are plenty of videos explaining how to measure different parts of the engine with different tools and such, so I don't feel the need to cover that area of my rebuild. Long story short, most pieces were okay to reuse, with the exception of the camshaft, as mentioned at the end of part 1. Other parts will need some machining, but again, will be reused. I would also like to apologize for some of the audio faults in the last video. I'm still figuring out how to do a lot of things in the editing process, as this is all very new to me. I will hopefully be getting some new equipment soon, and trying different things to improve the production quality of these videos. I will be keeping these in a vlog style format, because my interests in these are merely to share what I find fun. and in this series specifically, share information surrounding the engine for others who might be working with them also. Hence the type 807 this and fits these engines yada yada. So, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.